right, hello everyone. My name is Shannon Kennedy, and I am the community manager of the Add1Challenge. Today, I have a very special guest with me. Her name is Jeanette, and she recently completed her first Add1Challenge. Why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about the language you were learning, and why you learned it?
Okay. My name is Jeanette Cameron, and I focused on Korean because I am half Korean. My mother and my stepmother are both Korean, and I wanted to be able to communicate more easily with them.
So, what drew you to the Add1Challenge? What attracted you to take part in the challenge?
I kept reading about it. I've been interested in re revisiting the languages I had studied in the past and stopped working on. And so in my search on how to effectively learn languages, I started following a lot of blogs and newsletters on language learning and a lot of polyglots. And Add1Challenge kept coming up, and I kept seeing it. And I just saw that a lot of people found great success with it, and the community was very helpful. And I'd been studying on my own, and so that was really attractive to me to find like-minded people to join alongside of and try to improve my Korean.
So, when you started doing the challenge, what were your plans for the challenge? Like, what were you going to do as far as studying, and what did you think you would start out doing?
Honestly, I don't know that I had a very strategic plan, which was part of the reason I wanted to join the Ad One, because I thought it would help me to focus. And it actually did, because early on I asked you, which language should I focus on? And you uh, guided me on that. And even just having to choose one language was a huge thing for me, because I'd been splitting my time weekly, daily, and I was making improvement, but it was not encouraging improvement. And I thought, it's going to take me forever. I'll eventually get there. But choosing one language was a big step. And then um, focusing on different types of activities was a big improvement as well, because I had been bouncing around using different apps, but they were mostly vocab apps. And so I was concentrating a lot of my energy on the same type of learning activity, just a lot of it. And I didn't fully realize that until I got into the challenge and realized that I need to teach myself in other areas as well. The speaking thing was huge because, well, everybody has a challenge with that. And it really, really pushed me to start talking to other people. Um, and once I was in the challenge, I think reading what other people were doing really helped me to identify um, ways that I could structure my language learning instead of just having this chaotic approach of doing too much of one thing and not enough of another thing, and certainly not very much speaking. Um, and I started as an intermediate speaker, and so at first I wasn't sure that I was the right kind of person to take the challenge, because I thought it was for beginners. And with the 15 minutes conversation at the end, I was already able to do that, but um, it wasn't smooth, grammatically correct, and confident. Um, and so that was kind of my goal, was to develop that level of, yeah, maybe it's 15 minutes, maybe it's 30 minutes, but ultimately I wanted to feel confident instead of embarrassed when I was speaking. And I think the challenge really helped me with that.
So, let's talk about some of what you were doing in the challenge. To start, what was your daily study commitment? How many times per week, and how much time per study session?
I think I had, honestly, I wish I could remember. It seems like a long time ago. It was really, really um, conservative. I think I had like 20 minutes a day, 6 times a week or something, or maybe it was 30 minutes a day, 6 times a week. It was something really conservative because I knew that I needed some wins. And if I could just get going then I could do more than that. But if my goals that were staring at me were too big, I would just give up before I even got started. So I think with the 30 minutes a day, 6 days a week, that gave me one day off a week. And I didn't often take that day off because it was just easy enough to do it. And the 30 minutes often grew to an hour or more. But because I had made the 30 minutes 6 days a week, I could feel really good about my progress. And that encouraged me to keep meeting those goals and then do more.
So I also know that you work and you're a parent, so you've got a lot of stuff going on. How did you fit language learning into your daily routine?
Well, fortunately, we were on summer break, which is one of the reasons I joined the challenge during the summer because I thought, oh, this will be really good because I can focus on me a little bit. Um, and it was tough. I worked. I I think I basically prioritized the language first. I thought if I can just get those 30 minutes in at the beginning of the day, then it wouldn't be hanging over me. And then I could do my other work, however long that took. And if later in the day I was done with my work and I had more time to go back to the language learning, I would do that. I didn't answer your earlier question, I think, in terms of what kinds of study I was doing. So I was doing a lot of vocab, really needed vocabulary. So I was using Anki to use the spaced repetition method. And I was listening to more. I had been watching Korean dramas, but I'd always had the subtitles on. And so I was trying to challenge myself to not turn on the subtitles or listen to blogs, slow it down if I had to, because sometimes I couldn't make out certain things. Just explore other avenues of listening. And then the speaking thing was on my goal thing, but I didn't do it until the mini goals came along and made me do it. So that was some of it. I don't think I really focused on grammar or any of that stuff that much, just because there were so many things I had to improve. I didn't want to. I didn't want to overwhelm myself and stop any progress.
Were there any specific resources other than Anki that you found extremely helpful during the challenge?
I'd been using a site called Korean from Zero, and they have everything available online, but then you can buy books through Amazon that are, printed books. Um, and I really liked it because it had audio for pretty much everything that was written, very clear instructions. There's some minor things that I noticed as an intermediate speaker that I thought, oh, that's not quite right. But it did help me a lot and to be able to hear and repeat and all of that. I also had some texts that my mom had sent me from like Korean school stuff that I tried to work through, which are still too difficult for me. I had a bunch of bilingual books, children's books that I used to read through. But otherwise, I mean, I would say my biggest help during the Add1Challenge was actually going to Meetup and finding groups that are language focused and going and meeting those people. So probably people were the best resource.
And for your videos, how did you feel about your progress between day 0 and then 30 and then 60 and then 90?
I feel pretty good about the progression between them. I think in the very first video that I did, I was really uncomfortable and stiff and I don't want to say tongue-tied, but the language wasn't really flowing out of my brain as well as it was in later videos. And so even looking back at it, I think I look kind of anxious and stressed out. Whereas with the later videos, and I also, a couple of the videos I was talking with someone else, and that helped a lot because I didn't have to keep thinking of things to say and it was more responding to somebody. So that helped. But there was another later video that I just did by myself, and I think that went all right. I tried to just talk and try to keep it theme oriented, but then I got a little frustrated because I didn't have the vocabulary for what I was trying to say, and but overall, I mean, I could see my progression, and I was very happy with the progress I'd made.
Was there anything in particular that you did to prepare for each of your videos?
Take a deep breath and dive in.
It's always good advice.
Nothing in particular. I mean, well, the one that I said I was trying to stick with the theme was when I was at the beach. And so I was like, okay, well, I could talk about walking on the beach and picking up shells and seeing this and seeing that. And I was like, oh, I don't know any of those words. I can't really narrate that. So that became a little bit problematic. And so otherwise, I mean, for the videos with the conversation partners, I just got their permission in advance to record, and they were fine with it. And so, like I said, it was just easier to talk to someone than to talk to a camera.
Were there any particular hurdles that you faced during the challenge? Perhaps a vacation or like a really troublesome plateau or anything like that? And if you did, what did you do to overcome it?
Okay. I didn't have any particular vacations or stresses. I mean, some other people seem to have some real personal challenges. I admire them for continuing to go. For me, it was probably more that the language group that I was part of was rather small. And initially, there was at least one other intermediate speaker. And so I thought, oh, good, well, might be able to have some chatting sessions. And then she didn't continue. And then our group kind of dwindled. And I was fine in the study group and participating, but with beginner levels, it was a little hard to get the language practice in. So I was a little bit discouraged by that. But again, I'd found groups in person that I could go chat with, so it worked out. And probably after about the second month, I was really getting kind of worn out, I guess. I don't want to say I don't want to say worn out so much as maybe I needed to change my focus or my priorities or shake something up. And I didn't really do that. And so I think I kind of got into this less motivated period. But then moving into the third month and getting my second wind was really helpful to finish out the challenge and go, oh, okay, there's the finish line. That's motivating. So I guess in a way it would be like a marathon. I mean, it's a short period of time. It's 3 months, but when you're in it every day and you're doing the work every day, it is about consistency and keeping on and being persistent and perseverant. And I think I did learn that even when I was bored with what I was doing, um, that it was still important to just keep doing something, do anything language related every day, and eventually that motivation will come back. And so I just kind of kept sticking to the plan and trying to just make my minimum goals. And I think at about that time, I wasn't going over my goals like I had been initially when the motivation is really high and you've got a lot of energy and I'm going to conquer this thing. And so by probably day 60 or so, I was starting to just barely meet my goals. I mean, just meet my goals. Um, and, uh, and with my kids, they had an active social life. And so I felt like, oh, I need to help them get them around and all of that stuff. And so it was a little bit distracting, and I let some of that distract me. But I think overall, as long as I checked in on Slack and could, as I had time, read through what other people were doing, whether it was in the study group or in my community group, and see what other people were struggling with and seeing that other people were also in this kind of demotivated state, it encouraged me because it was like, oh, there's not anything wrong with me. I'm not having some weird issue that nobody else is having. It really helped me to know that, okay, other people are going through this too. So maybe I can just take a breath and be okay with taking a break and get back to it. So Yeah.
Let's circle back to your videos. So we kind of talked briefly about the different videos that you did, but let's talk about your day 90 video in particular. So when you were getting ready for your day 90 video, like what were you expecting it to be? And then what did it really end up being, as far as like how you did in the video and, afterwards when you watched that after you completed it?
So what my expectations were right before I did the video or at day
Yeah,
zero?
right when before you did the day 90 video.
Oh, okay. Well, I had selected a community tutor to have a conversation with, and I'd spoken with her. I think, yeah, I'd spoken with her before, and we had settled on a news article. And so I studied that news article and I thought, okay, I'm going to learn some new vocabulary and this will be interesting because I'll be able to talk news. And as the time to talk came, I realized there was no way I was going to be able to talk news because I just didn't have that amount of knowledge. But I did talk about what I could with the words that I knew. And so I guess what I expected was that I was going to perform some superhuman feat and do something that I hadn't been trained to do. Um, and then as I was discouraged about that and thought, well, I'll just do what I can, afterward, I realized that, I didn't need the special vocabulary in order to make myself understood and to tackle more complex subject matter. And so that was really, really encouraging. And my tutor was really helpful and she stuck with me and gave me the words that I needed at the time. And I'd written down a couple of vocabulary words and I did better than, I mean, I kind of went into this, this cycle of emotions going through that video. And so at the end, I was happy with how much we'd been able to discuss at a higher sophistication level than really anything that I'd been able to speak in Korean before. And that was really, really cool and really exciting.
After your day 90 video, you had another pretty important conversation that you didn't record, though. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
One of my goals when I joined the Add1Challenge was to talk more intimately with my mom. So she's 80 now. She turned 80 like last year. She's going to be 81. Oh my gosh. And for some reason, that just kind of sat on me. It's just a year older than 79, but for some reason, 80 just sounded like, wow, she's really lived a long life, and how much longer does she have? And our conversations had been, I don't want to say stagnant, but we talk about the same stuff. It's the same stuff, the same vocabulary, the same level, same depth of conversation, which is not very deep. And she speaks English, but it's no better than my Korean was. And she gets exhausted speaking English. So we'd speak in Korean, but I would get frustrated because I couldn't express the things that I wanted to express to her. Like, what are the kids doing? And I could tell her in general terms and broad paint strokes, but I couldn't. It was like an impressionist painting, right? You get the general idea, but if you get really close, you can't see any details. And that was really frustrating for me. And I guess my mom wasn't really aware of that because she thought, oh, we're doing fine. But I was like, but I want to tell you more and I want to hear more. I want to understand more of your history. And so at the end of the challenge, after the day 90 video, we had a conversation. Um, and I had a notebook with pen next to me so I could be a little bit more disciplined about our conversations. And we had the kind of same old conversation. I was like, okay, well, I guess, and I told her what I had been doing. She's like, oh, I understand you fine. You don't need to try to work on your Korean. It's fine. I understand everything you say. And I was like, well, you don't understand. Like, I want to say more and I want to understand more. And as we were about to hang up, the conversation turned and we started talking about her sister in Korea and her cousins and their relationships with each other and all this stuff that I know that she's probably told me bits and pieces before that I didn't really understand. I struggled to understand, but this time I was taking notes writing down names and understanding more of what she was saying. And I would stop her and I'd look things up on Google Translate if I had to. And it was just a really, really good conversation. So we ended up talking another 30 minutes, and I got a much better idea of our family history. That was so cool. And I was so thrilled. And I wish I could have recorded that, but privacy and all. But I had to report it on Slack and let y'all know that that happened. And so I was so excited about it.
That's incredible. So, to sum up, what would you say your biggest takeaway from the Add1Challenge was?
Uh, Being accountable to other people can help you reach certain goals, or certain objectives that on your own you can easily talk yourself out of and justify and rationalize that, okay, it doesn't have to happen yet. No, I'm not ready for that yet. And I think that was the biggest thing for me. I live in the same place, in the same city, and for the last 9 years, I'd been thinking, oh, there are no Koreans around me. I'm never going to get to practice my Korean. And with the Add1 and the mini challenge saying, go find someone to talk to, I was, oh, I could find people online. And I kind of knew that, but I just didn't feel brave enough to do it. And then because I wanted to meet all the challenges, I talked to people online, and then I found the meetup groups and actually went to a meeting instead of just joining and not going. I'll do it later. I'll do it later. And so having those challenges and those goals and the time limited nature of them, really, it was really weird. Like I could have just ignored it and not done it, but there was something about no, because if I don't do it, I'm going to be letting myself down, because I joined this challenge to push myself and to be encouraged by seeing how other people pushed themselves and lived to tell the story, made it easier for me to do it. And so just talking to people was huge. And I think that on our own, it's some people can do it. Some people can just, okay, I'm going to go talk to somebody and go do it. But I think a lot of us need other people to just report back to, hey, I did it, celebrate with me. And just having people to go back to and saying that to is huge. I think an unintended side effect I was surprised by is that in speaking to strangers in Korean, in a, where I'd been so uncomfortable. I mean, I would meet somebody and my husband would be like, oh, this guy's Korean, say hello. And I would stumble over my tongue and be like, oh, I don't know what to say. And now I could go meet a table full of people speaking Korean and feel comfortable and saying hello and introducing myself and joining in whatever game they're playing. But an unintended side effect, I think, is that I've become more confident speaking English with strangers. I'm an introvert. I'm not eager to be in front of people, talking to people. And I found that in talking to strangers in a foreign language, my own language has become um, a bonus, because I don't have that language barrier and I can connect with this other person. And somehow my perspective has shifted so that the world isn't so scary as it used to be. So that's, I mean, it's huge for me. I'm so appreciative.
That is really huge. Congrats.
Thank you.
So, what would your advice be to someone who is just starting their Add1Challenge?
Hmm. Well, I would say to check in. Um, showing up is half the battle. If you just keep checking in, then that will help you do the work. If for whatever reason you're not able to do the work, checking in is going to give you that motivation. If life circumstances get in the way, I would say do 5 minutes. Just do 5 minutes. And if you can't do more than 5 minutes, be okay with that. But give yourself at least 5 minutes, like working out. It's really hard to work out. But if you can get dressed and you do the 5 minutes, then you can do the 10 minutes or whatever. And you may not, and that's okay. 5 minutes is better than nothing. So I would just say to don't overwhelm yourself by making your goals too big. Check in with your groups and give yourself a regular daily goal. Don't try to do like an hour a day, multiple times a week, if you can't be consistent about it. I think consistency is key. Do all the mini challenges. Don't think of them as, oh, these are optional. Just do them, and they will incrementally get you to where you want to be by the end of the challenge.
Great. Thank you so much. Before we close out, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Um, well, I was kind of starstruck getting to meet you and and Benny and Ollie at the final webinar. So that was like really cool. I was just like, oh, I'm in such company of greatness. That was like awesome.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for sharing your experience in the Add1Challenge. And congrats on making it to the finale and for all of your amazing accomplishments with Korean.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
all that you do to make this happen.
Thank you.
Bye.